Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I'm back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation that I've received over the last 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you're currently taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at fitcosgrove_. All right, let's get started with this week's No Filter Q&A with question number 1. Nick, I train with weights once a week and have been experiencing some pain in my trapezius and upper back area. My RMT tells me to take a break from shoulder pressing. Do you agree with this assessment? To be honest, I don't agree with this assessment. If you're only working out with weights once a week, there's a very good chance that it's not the exercise that's causing the issue. Okay. What's causing the issue is your sedentary lifestyle. Okay. Also, what usually causes issues like this, like chronic muscle fatigue and pain, is something you're doing on a continuous basis. So in your case, it could be the way that you sleep, the way that you sit, the way that you walk. That's what's most likely causing the pain. Okay. Doing shoulder presses 3 to 4 sets a week is not what's causing the issue, unless your form is atrocious and you're not following proper form or technique. But otherwise, it's not from the shoulder pressing. Okay. It's impossible. So I would not recommend that. My recommendation would be to get your ass in the gym more than once a week. The reality is going to the gym once a week, is it better than nothing? Probably, but is it really going to do anything? Not really. I mean, you're not really going to see significant results. You might see some results, but nothing dramatic. Okay. So if you want to strengthen that area surrounding the trapezius, if you want to strengthen your rhomboids, you want to strengthen your scapula, you want to strengthen your lats, you have to lift weights. Okay. It's the only way. So I disagree with that assessment. I honestly think that you should be in the gym more. I think you should have a training split that you're following at least 3 to 4 days a week in the gym. Make sure you're hitting agonist versus antagonist muscle groups, chest versus back, shoulder and arm workout, legs and abs, and just get your body moving. It's the same thing I tell clients when they tell me they have joint pain. I say, if you want to get rid of that joint pain, the best way to do it is start lifting weights more frequently. Because the stronger that your muscles are surrounding your joints, the less work your joints have to do. But people tell me I have knee pain. I'm like, well, you need to strengthen your quadriceps and your hamstrings and your glutes and your calves. Because if those muscles are stronger, guess what? Your knees aren't going to be taking as much pressure when you're walking or when you're running or when you're just sitting. Your knees are going to take a lot less pressure. Okay. So same thing with your elbows. People who have tennis elbow or golfer's elbow, it's usually caused by repetitive motions that you're doing on a continuous basis. So when you're having muscle strain, muscle fatigue, chronic pain in that area, it's usually from something you're doing on a continuous basis. So I would really watch how you are sleeping at night. You know, if you're someone who tends to sleep with your arm elevated, or how you're sitting, if you tend to sit hunched over, right? Those are things that you have to pay attention to. Focus on postural alignment and incorporate weightlifting at least 3 to 4 times a week in the gym. That would be my recommendation. But I wouldn't stop shoulder pressing 3 to 4 sets a week, because that's not what's causing the issue. Again, unless your form is atrocious and you're not executing proper form and technique. Okay. But otherwise, I would not get rid of that exercise. Next question. Nick, what's your opinion on protein bars? Are there any out there that you can recommend to eat? You know, the only protein bars out there that I currently recommend to clients are the Quest nutrition bars. And even then, I'm very careful with which bars from Quest that I recommend. So as a rule of thumb, I always tell my clients, when you're choosing a protein bar, no more than 1 gram of sugar. Most protein bars are loaded with sugar. You know, you take power bars. Power bars have like 12 grams of sugar. You take some of these, even the Luna bars, some of those Luna bars can go even up to 10, 15 grams of sugar. So you have to be very careful with protein bars. Just because something says protein on it does not necessarily mean it's healthy for you. Hell, a ribeye steak, I've talked about this before. A ribeye steak is loaded with protein. It's also loaded with saturated fat. So just because something is high in protein does not necessarily mean that it's healthy for you. Okay, so you have to remember, be very careful reading food labels. So good rule of thumb, if you're going to have a protein bar, although I really don't recommend people have protein bars unless they're in a jam and they don't have any food available to them, and it's just purely for convenience, they're on the road or they're in between meetings, the Quest nutritional bars are pretty good. Okay, but again, you have to be careful because not all Quest nutritional bars are good. There's some that are a little bit higher in sugar. So the ones I recommend, no more than 1 gram per sugar per bar. Okay. You're pretty safe with those. Quest Nutrition, I think they've been around since about 2010. So prior to that, I never recommended protein bars to people because honestly, protein bars were full of crap. Full of sugar and also just full of like products that you don't want. You really want to eat something that can sit on the shelf for over 2, 3 years and not go bad. So that's another reason why I don't recommend eating food like that. I like to eat food that I know if I left it out on the shelf, it would go bad within 3 or 4 days. Okay, because that's good whole foods. So that's why I don't really recommend protein bars. But if you're in a jam and you have no other option, my recommendation then is to have a Quest Nutrition bar, 1 gram of sugar, no more than that. Okay. Next question. Nick, what is the best diet I should follow to lose weight? I get different versions of this question almost on a weekly basis. And again, it's not one specific diet that's better than the other. So you have people that will swear on intermittent fasting. You have people that say keto is the best diet, right? You have people that say carb cycling is the best diet. So there's all these different beliefs. And what I always tell people is you have to follow the nutritional plan, because I don't like to use the word diet, but the nutritional plan that works best for you. And the only way to do that is through trial and error. Right. So for example, when I work with a lot of women, I've mentioned this before, most of the women I work with, I tend to put them on a very high fat, low carbohydrate diet, and that works really well for them. The guys, on the other hand, I usually put them on a moderately high, I should say, carb diet and very low fat diet, and that seems to work well for them. Right. And then there's people in between where I will have them doing intermittent fasting. Right. So it depends on your lifestyle. Right. I will have some people do carb cycling. So it depends on your lifestyle and your genetics, your gender. So there's all these factors that you have to take in consideration. And the only true way to know what diet plan works best for you, or nutritional plan that works best for you, forget weight loss or muscle gain for a second, but getting blood work done. And if you're on a nutritional plan for 6 months, go get your blood work done. Check all your levels, see what your creatinine levels are, right? Yeah, go check your hormones, see what your hormone levels are at, right? It's always good to get an idea. Check your estrogen levels, check your testosterone levels. So that's a good idea, good indicator too, to see if you're following a good, healthy nutritional plan that works for you. But when it comes to muscle building and fat loss, I will say this: the best diet is a diet full of clean, whole, nutritional foods. So I would not recommend doing the if it fits your macros diet, for example. That to me is a terrible nutritional plan. I've talked about that for years. You have to remember, it's not just about calories. It's not just about macronutrients. It's about micronutrients, the quality of the food you are consuming. That is so important. Okay. So just because something fits your macros for the day doesn't mean that you should have it. Okay. I always tell people, treat your body like a luxury car. Fuel it with the best possible gas, the fuel that you can. Okay. So that's going to be your best nutrition plan. Finally, I'll end this with, if you're really serious about building muscle and losing fat, you have to practice portion control. It's crucial. Okay. Even to this day, I'm not trying to get ready for a competition. I'm not trying to get ready for the summer season, but I still practice portion control because I know that if I eat too much, I don't feel good. I feel very lethargic, very fatigued, right? And I know if I eat too little, I don't have enough energy. So I find I have to portion control all my meals so I know exactly how to fuel my body. So I'm constantly performing at an optimal level. Okay. Because otherwise, if you're just guessing and eyeballing, okay, I'm just going to eat sporadically, of course you're going to feel like crap. You're going to have spikes in blood sugar levels and your insulin levels are going to crash. So all day your energy levels are going to be going like this. So it's always better to have your energy levels go like this. And the best way to do that is from eating quality, good food and practicing portion control. Okay. Nick, I'm following your chest and back workout on your coaching app and was wondering if it would be okay to cut the volume of this workout in half and just do it twice a week instead of one full big workout once each week. I mean, you could do that. I wouldn't recommend doing that. And the reason I don't recommend training a muscle group twice a week is I personally think that's overtraining the muscle group. I think if you train a muscle group once a week, especially if you're a natural athlete, natural lifter, you're not an enhanced lifter, you're not using anabolic steroids, your body will not recover fast enough. So even if you cut that volume in half and you're only doing, let's say 12 sets for chest instead of 24 sets, and you do another 12 sets, so you do 12 sets on Monday and do 12 sets on Thursday, in my opinion, you're still not giving your body enough time in between to hit the chest again. Okay. Same thing with back. So I would not advise that. What I have found that works best for most, if not all, natural lifters is to train each muscle group once per week. Okay. If you start training a muscle group twice a week, 3 times a week, you're going to overtrain the muscle. Chances are you're going to get injured and you're not going to recover fast enough for the muscle to grow. Okay. Now, if you are someone who's enhanced, You're using anabolic steroids. Well, that's a different story. You're going to recover a lot quicker. So yeah, you probably could train your chest twice a week. Hell, you could probably train your chest 3 times a week. But if you're like most people and you're not using anabolic steroids, you have to train with intelligence. Okay. And the only way to do that is to allow the muscle to rest. Okay. The muscle does not grow in the gym. The muscle grows when you go home, you feed it, you allow it to rest and recover. Okay. So if you're constantly hitting that muscle every 2 or 3 days, it's never going to get enough time to rest. So that's why it's important to design a training split where you're doing, let's say, like I said, chest and back on one day, shoulders and arms one day, legs and abs one day. If you're in the gym 3 days a week, and then you train every other day, right? If you want to train in the gym 5 days a week, that training split could be chest one day, back day 2, shoulders day 3, arms day 4, legs day 5. You can do your training split however you like, but I would still recommend to train each muscle group once per week. Obviously, if you're training 5 times a week versus 3 times a week, you can hit each muscle group with a little bit more volume, and that's fine. But as long as you're only doing that muscle group on one day per week, okay? You don't have to take my advice on that, but this is 20 years of working with natural lifters and enhanced lifters, and this is what I find works best for people who are natural. As I mentioned, if you are enhanced, you can follow a different set of rules, but train smart, you need to recover, you need to fuel the body properly, you need to rest the body, and that's how you grow muscle. All right, next question. Nick, I get really bad headaches and muscle cramping every time I take Cialis. Is there anything I can do to help stop this from happening? I love Cialis, but hate some of the side effects. So headaches and muscle cramping are the top 2 side effects from taking Cialis, right? A lot of guys experience that. So my recommendation is if you're going to take Cialis, you need to make sure that you're fully hydrated. So if you're taking that one little blue pill, you need to make sure that you're capping that off with, in my opinion, if you're a guy, at least 2 to 3 liters of water. That's going to allow you to stay hydrated, right? It's going to definitely stop the muscles from cramping, and it might alleviate the headaches to an extent. But if you're still getting those headaches, my recommendation is to pop an Advil every time you take a Cialis. Okay. Don't forget too, an Advil will also help thin the blood. So that will help a little bit too, because as people know, what Cialis does, it helps release nitric oxide throughout the body, which makes it easier for men to get an erection, right? So if you want to combat the headaches, my recommendation, take an Advil, just one, and stay hydrated. So drink, 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 okay? Water, not booze, water. And that should help, okay? I've had a lot of guys come to the gym and they've experienced that, and I said, you need to hydrate. So you need to be pounding back water, okay? So I always tell people anyway, if you're a 200-pound male, you should be getting in at least 2 liters of water a day at the minimum, regardless if you're on Cialis or not. But if you're going to take Cialis, my recommendation, take that up to 3 to 4 liters of water a day, okay? And that should help with the cramping, and the Advil should help with the headaches. Okay. That's my spot. Oh, here. Okay. Nick, I have so much cellulite on my ass and inner thighs. Is there anything I can do naturally to help get rid of this, or is surgery the only option? Okay, so when it comes to cellulite, believe it or not, you actually can get rid of some cellulite to a degree. Again, this will depend on how severe the cellulite is, how overweight you are, right? How inactive you are, how long you've had the cellulite for, right? So, for example, I get a lot of women to come work with me in their early 30s, and they're starting to experience some cellulite, like in their glutes, their hamstrings, their thighs. It's very common. So I always tell people, like, it's not too late to start, especially if you haven't lifted before, to get into the gym now, start squatting, start doing straight leg deadlifts, start doing lunges, start doing hip thrusts, and then you can tighten the muscles surrounding the fascia, right? So the skin gets tighter around that muscle belly. Now, again, this will depend on how severe the cellulite is. I've worked with tons of women who have actually been able to get rid of cellulite, okay? This is not like, it's not a myth, it can happen. But again, if you're someone who is older, let's say you're in your 50s and you've never gone to the gym, it's going to be a little bit more challenging now, right? It will be. So is it impossible? No, but there's a good chance that even if you do still train and you train with the highest amount of intensity and heavier weights, you're still going to have some cellulite. Okay, so surgery might be the only option at that point. But my recommendation is to use all your resources naturally first. So lift with the utmost amount of intensity, lift with perfect form, perfect technique, train consistently. And my recommendation to people, if they had not been in the gym doing this, is to do this for at least a year. Give your body a year. And after a year, really assess your physique and go, okay, is this cellulite clearing up? Okay, some of it has, but it's still some there. Then surgery might be the route, okay? But I wouldn't just go for surgery right away. because you'd be surprised. There's a lot of people I work with and they think, oh, once that cellulite's there, it's never going to come off. Not true, especially if you're in your 20s and 30s. Okay. And I go on my testimonial page on our website and you'll see I have tons of women that have talked about that they were able to eliminate cellulite from getting worse, right? And that's just from going to the gym lifting weights. Cardio alone is not going to do anything. Okay. Cardio will help keep the fat off, but as most people know, cellulite over time, a lot of that just happens due to estrogen levels. You don't really see many men getting cellulite, but it happens to women, right? And so this is why you need to lift weights. It's crucial. Okay. So it's never too late to start lifting weights, but obviously you're going to be at a little bit more of a disadvantage if you're starting in your 50s and 60s versus someone who's starting in their 20s and 30s, because the muscles are still young and they're fresh and they're less used, right? There's less mileage on the body. So it will be easier for someone in their 20s and 30s to help get rid of that cellulite, or at least lessen it. So when you do go to get the surgery, there's not much left to get rid of. Okay. So to answer that question, yes, you can eliminate cellulite through weightlifting. I promise you, you can. How much will depend on what, as I mentioned, how severe the cellulite is, how long you've had the cellulite for, how overweight you are. Okay. So I'd really have to work with you and design a leg workout program for you and monitor your body over the course of not just weeks, but months to see how you're progressing. But I promise you it can be done. Okay. Nick, how can I recover faster in between sets? Good question. What I find works best to recover in between sets, the most the most quickest and effective way to recover in between sets, hydrate. Water is crucial. Again, just like the Cialis, water. If your muscle bellies are full of glycogen and are hydrated, you're going to get what they call the pump in the gym. But not only that, your muscles are actually going to recover much more quickly. If you're working a depleted muscle, a muscle that has very little glycogen in it and is not hydrated, you're going to burn out faster. And I've experienced this in both ways. When I used to get ready for competitions towards the end, the last week where I would start dropping my water a little bit, start dropping my carbs, I had very little glycogen in my muscle bellies and I was always like dehydrated. So my muscles would burn out very quickly. Once the show was over though, and I started eating regularly again, I started getting those complex carbohydrates back in my system in conjunction with drinking more water, pounding back water again, my recovery time was dropped in half. Okay. So you need to fill those muscle bellies with glycogen and water. Okay. And the best way to do that, drink water in between sets. Okay. So I always tell my clients that you don't have to chug water back, but just every time you're finished like a circuit, so you're doing a circuit of 3 or 4 stations, every time you're finished one round, just get in the habit of taking a swig of water. And I always tell people, I remind people, I'm like, water. And I don't need it. I'm like, trust me, water. And I'm not saying pound back the water during your workout, pound it back for the rest of the day, but during your workout, just sip on it. And it really makes a big difference. If you're having a hard time retaining the fluid, you can get a BCA powder. Like I like to use a powder called Extend. And that's full of electrolytes, right? Has tons of BCAs in there, even some sodium. And don't forget sodium. Don't be afraid of sodium. A little bit of sodium is fine. Actually, we need sodium. The body needs sodium, but that will just allow your muscles to remain hydrated. Okay. So it's not necessary to have a BCA powder in between and have what they call an intra-workout drink, but it doesn't hurt. And I like to use one while I work out because I find it does help me stay hydrated. Okay, so I found over the years that staying hydrated really helps recover much more quicker and much more effectively in between sets. Okay, so try that out. Take a swig of water after every set or after every second set, and you'll see that you actually move a lot quicker throughout your workouts. Okay. Nick, the weights in my gym only go up to 50 pounds. I can easily do 15 reps with most exercises with these weights. Should I try increasing my reps to 20 to 25 to challenge my body more to grow? No, I wouldn't recommend doing that. What I would recommend do is using some pre-exhaust techniques though. So for example, if you know you can easily press 50-pound dumbbells on an incline dumbbell chest press, start off with some incline dumbbell flies, right? So, try to pre-exhaust pec minor before you stimulate pec major. I've done that before when I've gone to hotel gyms or if I'm working out in my home building gym. My home building gym only goes up to like 40-pound dumbbells. So if I'm doing a workout there, I'll do a lot of pre-exhausting, right? Same thing with like if you're in a gym that doesn't have a squat rack, right? So you can't do barbell back squats. What I'll do is I'll pre-exhaust my legs doing all kinds of lunges, right? And then I'll do some kettlebell squats, right? Goblin squats. So I'll pre-exhaust my quads before I stimulate my glutes. So that's what I'd recommend. Use some pre-exhaust techniques. And that can be done with a lot of things. Like if you're doing shoulders, for example, start your shoulder routine with lateral raises, right? And then once you've done those lateral raises, then try pushing those 50-pound dumbbells up over your head. It's going to be much more challenging. So there's ways to do it, but I would not recommend increasing your reps. We know that for muscle growth, hypertrophy, that, well, in my opinion, it's between 10 to 15, but 8 to 15 reps usually gets the job done. Okay. The reason I don't recommend single digit reps is most people know I find that that's a good way to get injured. So I always tell people to stay in double digits, and I tell clients to stay in that 10 to 15 rep range. That works best for hypertrophy when you're trying to build muscle, you're training for aesthetics. If you're training for just pure raw strength and power like a power lifter, that 1, 2, 3 reps rule usually works best for most people. Okay. But like I said, if it were me, my recommendation, if you're going to do heavy, or not heavy, but if you're going to do high volume training and you don't have heavy weights, do pre-exhaust techniques. Okay. They work. And I've done this for years when I've gone to gyms that the weights aren't that heavy, and it really works. Or sometimes I've been in a really busy gym and the weights I want, they're all in use. Like if they're 60s and 70s are in use. So all I have left are like the 30s and 40s. I'll do pre-exhaust techniques. I'll superset. I'll superset in the case of a chest. I'll superset flies with presses. Try doing 4 rounds of supersets with flies before presses. See how heavy the 50-pound dumbbells feel. Okay. Remember, your muscles don't have eyes. They don't know how much weight you're lifting. Okay. So if you're struggling with even 10 pounds, guess what? The muscle is going to grow. Okay. So don't get caught up on the numbers. I got to lift super heavy weights. You don't. You just have to challenge the muscle. So the best way to challenge a muscle in this case, pre-exhaust techniques. If you want to learn more about pre-exhaust techniques, join my online coaching app. I have a whole workout program dedicated to just pre-exhausting techniques for every single muscle group. So you can just go on the program, download my app on the coaching app on the App Store, go into like a chest workout, and I'll have a whole pre-exhaust routine set up that you can follow. So the reason I designed that was just for cases like this in people's apartment building gyms, or if they're traveling and they're in their hotel gyms. Most hotel gyms don't have dumbbells that go up to 100 pounds, right? So that works really well if you're in a case where the weights, there aren't very heavy weights, right? Or there's no squat rack available, right? So it's a great way to train. All right. 2 more questions. All right. Nick, what is the latest you recommend a woman train into her pregnancy? This question came in through my Instagram earlier this week. It's a good question too, and it's also a question I've had a few times in the past. So this will depend on multiple factors, okay? And what I mean by that is, A, it's going to come down to how you as an individual are doing throughout your pregnancy, okay? I've mentioned this in the past, I've had some women train with me past their due date. Like they train right up to their due date and they're late, and they still train with me past their due date. I talked about one of my clients years ago who still trains with me to this day, but on her second child, she trained with me. I think she was like 2 weeks late, and she was doing a leg workout with me and went home later on that day and her water broke. And she attributes that to the leg workout. Obviously, now this person was very fit. She had been training with me for 10 years prior to being pregnant with her first child. That was fine. But then her second one was a little bit late, and she still trained with both past her. Okay. And then she was back in the gym a week later. Now that's someone who's very fit. So I understand that that's not everyone. There are some people, I've worked with some people who have to stop maybe 2 months before their due date because their doctor recommends it. So my recommendation is to talk to your doctor about that. And another thing would be to work with an experienced, knowledgeable, reputable personal trainer who can help guide you throughout your workouts during your pregnancy and make sure that you are doing exercises that are safe for you. Because as you go along with your pregnancy, there are certain exercises that I would recommend avoiding, right? BOSU squats, barbell back squats, hyper extensions, anything that puts too much pressure on the abdominal region or the lower back, the lumbar region, right? So it really helps having a doctor and a trainer who are aligned with your progress in the gym and your pregnancy. So I always tell people, if they're going to work with a doctor, make sure that doctor is well versed with exercise knowledge. Okay, you don't want one of those old school doctors that doesn't believe in going to the gym when you're pregnant. If anything, you should be going to the gym while you're pregnant. Just make sure you're training intelligently and safely. And in my opinion, the best way to do that is by working with a good coach and trainer who can actually guide and alter exercises for you as you go. So in my own experience, I don't think I've ever had a female client who is pregnant stop training maybe 2 months prior to due date, and that could have been due to some complications. But I'm thinking top of my head, I don't ever think I've ever had a client just stop training because they were pregnant. They usually train with me right up to their due date, and like I said, some past their due date. So it really depends how fit you are going into your pregnancy, your genetics, your age, Obviously, a woman who is 40 is going to have a little bit more challenge during her pregnancy than, say, a woman who's 20, right? So this is, again, is an individually based question. But my recommendation, get a good team behind you, good trainer, good doctor, keep everyone informed, everyone knows, everyone's on the same page. As you go along with your pregnancy, there are going to be certain exercises that you're going to have to take out, and just make sure that you're communicating that with your trainer. And a good trainer will be able to program accordingly for what you want to achieve and make sure that you achieve this in a safe and effective manner. All right. Last question. Nick, what are the chances of Mike Tyson at 57 years old beating Jake Paul at 27 years old in this summer's non-exhibition fight? Do you think it's possible for someone who is twice as old as someone else to have the same stamina and fitness level? Another good question. Okay, so here's the thing. When it comes to boxing, you definitely need stamina, right? You need to have excellent cardiovascular endurance. You need to have strength. You need to have power, but you need to last, right? Now, Tyson's 30 years older than Jake Paul, right? 57, 27. Tyson's been out of the game for a while. I know he had a non-exhibition fight back in 2020 against Roy Jones, but that was an exhibition fight. So this is a non-exhibition fight. It's a real fight. I'm going to go out there and tell you right now that in this situation, I honestly think Tyson can win. I do. And I'll tell you why. Tyson is the heavyweight champion, or was the heavyweight champion of the world, right? Jake Paul, he's not a professional fighter. As far as I know, most of his fights have been celebrity fights. I think the one fight he lost was actually against a professional fighter. So even though Tyson's older, he still has that muscle memory. I've watched some of his training footage right now. He still knows how to fight. He's still fast. Is he as fast as he was in his 20s? No, but he still knows how to fight, and he has that stamina. And I'm a true believer that if you're someone who stays on top of your fitness, you can actually, especially into your 50s or 60s, I work with guys in their 50s and 60s who are more fit than guys in their 20s. There's guys in their 20s who sit around and smoke weed all day, right? And then there's guys in their 50s and 60s who are doing Ironman. So when it comes to these two, though, Jake Paul's a very fit guy, right? So it's like, well, he's not sitting on his ass. He's training too. But I truly believe that someone of Tyson's caliber, someone who has that type of talent, natural talent, and that work ethic, I do believe that he can beat Jake Paul. In fact, I'll put $1,000 on Tyson right now, and anyone who wants to take me on that bet, that Tyson will win. I'm not going to say it's going to be a knockout, but I do think Tyson will win. And I've said this before, I do not believe age to be a factor. You know, when it comes to bodybuilding, yes, I do think age can be a factor because the body does get older, but this is not about the body. This is more about your endurance and your ability as a fighter, your technique, your raw talent that you have, and your work ethic. In bodybuilding, unfortunately, as most guys get older, the muscles do age. So, you know, the legs get smaller, right? The stomach gets bigger. That happens with time. So would a 57-year-old bodybuilder beat a 27-year-old bodybuilder? Probably not. No. But in this case with a fight, I honestly do believe Tyson can win. And like I said, I'll put $1,000 down to anyone who wants to bet me on this. But for those reasons, muscle memory, his natural born talent, he was the heavyweight champion of the world. When he's on, that work ethic is there. There's no stopping him. These guys are like, they've got tunnel vision. So if he brings it, and I think the fight's in July, you know, what is that? 4 months away? I think he can do it. So yeah, I'll be watching for sure. And I honestly do think that Tyson's going to show people that age is not a factor. As long as you work your ass off, you've got that ability to focus and zone in. And in this case, Jake Paul's not a professional fighter. So I think Tyson can win. I don't think it's going to be an easy win, but I think he can win. Anyway, on that note, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. This episode will be going up on Tuesday, March the 19th. As a reminder, if you do have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you're currently taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com or DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting my online coaching app. Thank you for supporting our in-house personal training business, and I will see you all next week. Bye for now.